All right, welcome back to day 4 of our Algebra EOG review. Number 1 from our warm-up. Bernie swims 6 laps in 4.5 minutes. How many laps does he do per minute? So our ticket, our given ratio, laps to minutes, it's in the same sentence. Our ratio is 6 to 4.5. So our ticket, laps over minutes. We got to do a little bit of conversions. I'm going to make everything fractions. So 6 is really 6 over 1 is a fraction, over 4 times 2 plus 1, 9 over 2, 4.5 minutes. Again, we want to see how many laps we don't know per 1 minute. We're going to cross multiply. 9.5 times x is 9.5x. 6 times 1 is 6. We're going to divide each side by 9.5. Off to the side, the real division problem is 6 over 1 divided by 9 over 2. We keep change flip. So we're going to keep 6 over 1, 9 over 2 becomes 2 over 9. We multiply across the top, across the bottom, and we get 12 over 9. We're going to leave that as an improper fraction. You could also get 1 1/3 as another possible answer. Number 2, determine the measure of angle ABC. Well, a couple things we got to know here. First off, ABC, we're going to end up talking about this angle. At the end, what's its measurement in degrees. But in order to do that, I have to solve for my variable first. Well, again, these two angles are supplementary to each other. This angle plus this angle, angle ABC plus angle CBD, combined make a straight line 180 degree line. So I know that 2n plus 2n gives me 4n, and I have minus 20 all by itself, so I just kind of dropped it into the problem. So the real equation is 180 is the same as 4 times n minus 20. Well, from there, I added 20 to both sides. So really, we have 200 equals 4 times n. Divide each side by 4. We're going to find out that n is 50. But 50 is not the answer. If we look at this angle, again, I'll highlight it. Angle ABC, this opening right here, well, it looks obtuse. So obtuse angles have a measurement greater than 90, but right now I have a 50 degree angle. Well, that's because that's what 1n is worth. But this angle is 2 times n. It's 2 times our answer. So 2 times 50, 100 degrees. Now I could say, hey, does this angle 100 degrees look obtuse? Yes, it is. 100 degrees is obtuse, and 100, and that angle does appear to be obtuse. Number 3, David is making yogurt. To mix his yogurt, he uses the amount of strawberries, and it's proportional to the amount of milk. So it doesn't matter if he's making a little bit or a lot. He uses the same number of strawberries compared to the milk, the same ratio. So if David uses 4 cups of milk for every 14 strawberries, I got to think, which of the following equations? Well, again, I could plug in, guess, and check. 1/10 times the milk, 4 cups of milk. Well, 1/10 of 4 is not 14. That number is going to get smaller as I multiply times a decimal or a fraction. Answer choice B is correct because 7 over 2 times 4 over 1 is 28 over 2. Well, 28 divided by 2 gives me 14. Just to show you the math on the other ones, 2/5 times 4, not 14. 4 would be getting smaller. 9 over 2 times 4. Yes, the number does get bigger, but 9 over 2 times 4 over 1 is 36 over 2, which is actually 16, not 14. So again, we can think about how do these numbers interact right there. 7 over 2, 14 over 4, same exact proportion, same exact ratio, but if I plugged in, I would still get the same answer. And then number 4, again, the mean and the median, make your list. Go through math, median, list number 1, math, median, list number 1, find our mean and median. Median would be 6 and the mean would be 5.8. All right, today's lesson, a little bit different. We're going to be doing some algebra word problems. I'm going to try to do my best to cover some common questions that the EOG goes across, but again, there is no one right way or no one strategy that can be used to solve all algebra word problems. You got to kind of use your brain and think about how can I break the problem down? What words mean operations, add, subtract, multiply, divide, and most importantly, did I satisfy the answer? So, a couple of just general things that I wanted to talk about. The Math EOG is made up of a lot of multi-step problems, so there's not just one thing to do. There's multiple steps to get to our answer. It's kind of your job to kind of think about the problem. How can we use the language in the problem to use math to solve correctly? Unpack the problems. Think about what's going on. Think about what information is given and how can I use that information to get to the end result of the answer. EOG is 4 hours. Maximize your time. There's no need to sit there and rush through a question, because all you're going to end up doing is just a lot of time to sit at your desk and think about what you just ended up doing anyway. So, first one I want to model. John pays $470 each month. I'm going to stop right there. That's kind of important right there. That's the total. So we already know how much John spends each month. What does he do with that money? 20% of his bills is used to pay for his car. 15% or 0.15 of the bills are used for rent, and then the rest of the money is used for other expenses. And at the end, we got to make sure that our answer, our final answer, represents how much money John spent on his other expenses. Well, to get there, we got to think about, well, how much did he pay for his car? How much did he pay in rent? And then how can I use that information to satisfy the question? Well, a couple things as I go through this. I noticed that 20% of his total, this $475, well, that word "of" is a dead giveaway that I'm multiplying. Also, percent of a number, dead giveaway. We are talking about multiplying. Then I keep reading. Again, it says 0.15 of his bills. What bill money are they talking about? That total, $475. So again, I'm going to multiply. Well, the last thing, how can I figure out how to get his other expenses? They use the word "the rest." Well, the rest, if I think about remainder, or the rest of his money, I would have to subtract. So I'm going to find out how much he spent on his car, how much he spent in rent, combine them, and then take it away from $475. So one of the easiest ways to do this is kind of keep your information nice, neat, and organized. So we know that he took that $475 and he broke it into 3 different things: car, rent, and his other expenses. Well, to find out the car, again, all I did was read, and I said 475 of 20%, which would be $95. The rent, 475 of that amount, 0.15 was used, or $71.25. And the last thing, we said the rest of the money. So again, all I did was I took these 2 numbers, I combined them, because I know that's both money that's being subtracted from the total. So it would end up being the last step, 475, take away the $166.20 for car and rent, and I would find out that he ended up spending $308.75 on other expenses: groceries, cable, water, those other necessities. One way I could check my answer is just to add my totals back up. So I know that my other expenses are $308.75. I know the rent was $71.25, and I know his car payment was $95. If I combine these 3 things and it gets me back to my total of $475, which it does, then I've satisfied each part of this question. Again, make sure you have your notes before we go to the next slide. All right, next one. Kind of 2 similar problems to that, but again, not every word problem uses the same exact strategy. You got to kind of use your brain and what information and how can you use a calculator to help you. So 4 students are practicing free throws. We have Mark, John, Abe, and Sean, and they want to know which has the greatest percentage. Well, the only one that they actually gave me a percentage of is Mark, 49%. So there's nothing to do. I just need to compare the other 3 people to Mark and see who had the greatest percent. John made 11 out of 25 shots. So they're telling us a fraction. There are 2 ways you could easily do this. 1, 11 divided by 25 is 0.44. Remember, a fraction bar is just really a division sign. So 11 divided by 25 is 0.44. Or on your calculators, you have an FD button. Right here next to our fraction button is the fraction to decimal button. We could also just put 11 over 25 in our calculator, press FD, and it will convert it automatically to 0.44. 0.44 is 44%. So right now, Mark was in the lead. Next up, Abe, they gave me a decimal. Again, I could either times it by 100 or just move the decimal place 2 spots to the right, and now we know 48%. Mark's still in the lead. Last person, Sean made 24 of 48 shots. That is a fraction, 24 out of. He took 24 shots, or 48 shots, and he made 24 of them. 24 divided by 48 is 0.5 times 100, or move the decimal spot 2 spots. We find out that Sean made 50%. Sean's our answer. He made the greatest number of free throws. Again, you just got to find a way to organize the work, make them all percents, all fractions, or the trickiest way with the fractions, you got to make sure that all the denominators are the same, easiest way to compare them, or again, we can leave them as decimals or percents to make life much easier. Second example I have on this one, a store has 40 apples. Again, they're telling me the total number of apples right there. 20% of the apples, again, that keyword of is going to mean multiply. 8 of the apples are red, delicious, and the rest going to be Macintosh. How many Macintosh were there? Well, there are some parts where they're trying to tell you some information. 40% of the apples, or 40 apples of 20%, means that 8 of them were green apples. The red delicious, there's no work to do but to read carefully. They told you how many of them were red delicious. There was 8 of them. So again, I'm just organizing my work. The last part, they said the rest were Macintosh. Well, I know 8 were green, 8 were red. That means 16 of them were green or red, but they want the leftovers. So 40 take away the 16 means 24 of them were Macintosh apples. Again, just using the words, reading carefully, finding any context clues that I can help me solve the problem. And finally, last two. Again, I'm going to try the one on the left. I want you to try the one on the right. I actually haven't shown you too many of these this year. So first one, at a mall on Saturday, there were 2,400 shoppers. Again, they were telling me something really important right there. I have a total of the shoppers. 60% were women. Of the women, 40% said they would come back on Sunday. They want to know how many people came back on Sunday that were women. Well, the first thing is, they told us the total and they told us the percent that were women. So we could very easily find out how many were women. 2,400, the total, times 60%, the percent of women, means that there was 1,440 women at the mall that day. Well, then if I kept reading, it said of the women. Well, now I know how many women there are. 40% of the women were coming back on Sunday. So once I knew how many women there were, I multiplied it by the percent of women that said they would return on a Sunday. And that means that 576 women came back on Sunday. Again, I would pause the video, try the second one on your own, and see how you did with it. When you're ready, unpause the video, and I'm about to go over it. So, in Detroit, the neighborhood, 180 houses they surveyed. Of the houses, 40% are still vacant, meaning nobody's living there currently. Of those vacant houses, 10% are currently for auction. How many houses out of the 180 were up for auction out of the vacant houses? First thing I found out was, well, how many houses are vacant? There's 180 total. 40% of the 180 are vacant, means 72 houses are still vacant. No one's living there. Of the vacant houses, 10% are currently for auction. The only thing we have to think about is we get an answer of 7.2 when we multiply. Well, you can't have a fifth of a house or 2/10 of a house. So we got to think, well, how many auction houses? Well, they're probably going to round down something like that. We would say about 7 houses would be up for auction. Okay. Last thing, make sure you got your Bitly and your Bitly sheet. It's on the front of the notes next to checklist number 3. Go ahead and get that done. When you're done, raise your hand, and you are done for the day.